Okay, we're going to continue talking about World War II, and we'll wrap up by talking about Germany surrendering and eventually Japan surrendering and the beginning of the Cold War. So this will be victory in Europe, and we're going to start by talking about the Battle of Normandy, often known as D-Day. So while the Soviet Union pushed Germany out of Eastern Europe, as we learned about in the last lesson with the Battle of Stalingrad and the events after the Battle of Stalingrad, the United States and Britain, and also Canada, are going to plan an invasion to liberate or free France. If you remember, France was defeated way back in 1940, shortly after the evacuation of Dunkirk. The United States joined the war after Japan bombed Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941, and did much of their fighting in northern Africa. And on June 6, 1944, the Allies decided it's time to get a foothold back in Western Europe because the Allies had pretty much been pushed out of Western Europe early on in the war by Germany, and they're going to try to take back France. So the Allies are going to invade or attack Germany in northern France along the beaches of Normandy, and this becomes known as D-Day. Now, D-Day comes as a shock to Germany. For the most part, Britain had better intelligence information, and between the United States and Britain and other allies, they tricked Germany into thinking an attack was going to come at Calais rather than actually at Normandy. So Normandy are these beaches that you can see along here in northern France, where Calais would be up here. The Allies are going to attack along the beaches of Normandy, which you'll probably learn a lot about in American history class. And for the most part, they aren't met with a whole lot of resistance aside from a few beaches, including Omaha Beach. They're going to try to push through France, so they're going to land in France and then eventually make their way towards Germany. The Battle of Normandy ends up as a disaster for Germany. The Allies are going to quickly move through France and then eventually towards Germany. They will be slowed down at the Battle of Bulge and a few other instances, but for the most part, this is pretty wide open fighting, not the trench warfare that you found in World War I. On August 25th, 1944, Paris will be liberated or freed. That's the French capital. And you're going to have the Britain and the United States and other allies closing in from the west, and you're going to have Soviet Union closing in from the east. So at this point, Germany is on the decline. They're facing round-the-clock bombings. They're facing assassination attempts, many of which from the German people against Adolf Hitler. Britain and France are going to near the German border from the west, and the Soviet Union is going to close in on Berlin, the capital of Germany, from the east. And at this point, the Soviet Union has already uncovered a lot of these concentration camps in Poland that the Germans were using as part of the final solution, or commonly known as the Holocaust. And on February 1945, the leaders from the US, Britain, and the Soviet Union are going to get together at the Yalta Conference and discuss defeating Germany, and then also discuss Japan. So at this point, they realize that Hitler is probably not going to surrender, and is going to take an invasion of the capital of Germany, which is Berlin, to end the war. The United States and Britain are not looking forward to this, realizing that a lot of innocent civilians will die, and a lot of their own troops will die. But at this point, Joseph Stalin, wanting revenge against Adolf Hitler, is going to go ahead and volunteer to lead the invasion of Berlin, and the United States is going to focus a lot of their attention at this point on Japan. So on April 16th, 1945, the Soviet Union invades Berlin, the capital of Germany, and it is completely depleted at this point. You can see this picture here of them flying a flag on top of what I believe is the Riksdag building. Germany army was scattered throughout Europe, many of them in Italy or in Eastern Europe, or trapped in France. And Berlin is left to be defended by the German police force, or the Berlin police force, World War I veterans who are probably in their 40s or 50s or maybe even 60s at this point, and Hitler Youth, which is an organization that Hitler created as part of his indoctrination process in Germany. So Soviet Union fought their way into the city. They committed atrocities against the German people, which are really, really bad things. Women, particularly targeted at this point. Many women commit suicide rather than being violated by the Soviet soldiers. Some of the women tried to take shelter in the Nazi bunkers and Nazi officers. Things are not going very well for the Germans, obviously, or the people in Berlin, especially the civilians, and then the Soviets are losing lives as well. So Hitler is going to plan suicide in an underground bunker. He's going to have a poison concocted. He's going to test it on his dog. He is going to decide to get married to Eva Braun, and after the wedding, they're going to have the poison. They, I believe, may be shot, and they have their bodies burned because Hitler does not want his body to be taken and used as some kind of monument or some kind of prize for the Soviets, and he doesn't want his body being mutilated, much like what Mussolini was. So he figured if Mussolini was treated that poorly by his own people, that the Soviets would treat his body much worse, and he definitely didn't want to be captured alive because of innocent people were getting completely mutilated and violated in Berlin. Hitler would have been much worse. So Hitler kills himself, and on May 7th, just a day or two later, Germany is going to surrender, and this becomes known as VE Day. So the war in Europe officially ends the next day, and so May 8th is VE Day, or Victory in Europe Day. There's a video that will go through and kind of describe Hitler's last few hours and what was going on in his bunker during the Battle of Berlin. This is the same video that you guys watched over the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. And then when you're done with that, you write a description of the Battle of Berlin, including the death of Adolf Hitler and the end of. We'll quickly continue and talk about the end of World War II altogether, and talk briefly about the Pacific Theater, which would be the Japan. Japan surrendered on August 14th, 1945. The U.S. dropped a second atomic bomb on Japan. The Soviet Union will also declare war before they surrender. This becomes known as VJ Day, or Victory in Japan, and this will also help lead to the Cold War. The United States and the Soviet Union fought on the same side during World War II, but had an uneasy alliance. The United States did not care for Stalin or communism, and Stalin didn't really care for the United States or their democracy or capitalism. And the U.S. and the Soviet Union disagreed on most issues and did not trust each other. Stalin kind of was convinced that the United States was allowing him to do most of the casualties during World War II. The United States was scared that he would try to take over Europe. Both sides had reasons to be concerned. These hostilities between the United States and the Soviet Union are going to occur before the war is even over. And this is going to be the Cold War, which will last for over 40 years, in which the United States and the Soviet Union nearly go to nuclear war a few times. And you have several proxy wars where they fight against each other's allies. So we'll learn about that in a couple units later. This should be the end of World War II. If you have any questions, please let me know. Please make sure you go back and do the writings and work on your study guide for World War II. Thanks for listening. Talk to you later. Bye.